Hello and welcome to Gaffy's Grinds. This is video 10 in our series on atoms, elements, and the periodic table for junior cycle science. A reminder now to turn your phone off and close any open tabs because they are a distraction. And the other thing is make sure that when I ask you to do the work or I ask you to do questions or take things down, that you do them. If you're just going to sit and listen, then you're kind of wasting your time watching these videos. You're not going to learn very much. But if you do the practice, then you're going to learn stuff, you're going to remember it, and you're going to make yourself a better student. Without any further ado, we'll get stuck into it. In our previous lesson, we looked at making compounds from elements in chemical reactions. So this little model here is going to kind of explain for us what's actually happening here. Well, what we have here is we have an arrow. This arrow here shows us, I'm talking about this arrow right here. This arrow here is going to show us a chemical reaction that is happening. So what we can do is we can actually break this little diagram into a before and after, a left and a right side. And we say that we always begin with chemicals that we call the reactants. So the reactants are always found on the left-hand side of this little dashed line, or you could call it the left-hand side of the arrow. So we always begin with the reactants on the left, and after the reaction is finished, we would end up with new chemicals, compounds that we call, we do not call them reactants, accident there. We call them products because they are produced in the reaction. So on the right-hand side of the arrow is where we would find products. And what's going on when a chemical reaction happens is that these chemical bonds that are seen holding the atoms of the reactants together, these bonds have to break. So the chemical reaction involves, first of all, these bonds breaking. Now, it's a little bit more complicated than I'm going to explain. I'm just trying to keep it really, really simple idea here. But the beginning thing we need to do is break the bonds between these atoms so that they can rearrange and form new bonds in the products. Okay, so new bonds get formed when we make the products. Now, if you look very carefully, you will notice that there is absolutely no new atoms whatsoever. Okay, if you look at the atoms we started with, in this case, 2 red circles and 2 blue squares. Now, of course, no atoms really look like this. This is just a model to help us understand. These represent specific atoms, but that is all that is there at the end. There is no new atoms. There is no like green triangles here that weren't there at the beginning. And there's nothing new made, and there is also nothing destroyed. All the atoms that were there in the beginning are also there in the end. So very simply, this is what's going on in a chemical reaction. Okay, so that's a quick overview of what actually happens. Reactants reacting together, bonds breaking, and then the atoms rearranging into a new structure to form products. Now, once a chemical reaction has taken place, we can use some words to describe what's actually happened. So we're going to actually take a look at a real, like this obviously isn't a real chemical reaction. These are just models of these can represent any types of atoms. We're going to look at a real example now, okay, where we take, say, for example, we take the elements magnesium. So we're going to write down the names. We have magnesium like this. And we're adding magnesium together with some oxygen. Now, these are what's there at the beginning of the reaction. We're starting with these. So what do we call these particular chemicals? On 3, 1, 2, 3, speak your answer to the screen. Okay, so we call these the reactants because we begin our chemical reaction with these reactants. These are our reactants. Now, how do we show that they are undergoing a chemical reaction? On 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, I hope that you said we would use an arrow to show a chemical reaction is happening. And at the end, a chemical reaction has happened, and after the chemical reaction, we end up with a new chemical, and that is magnesium. It's got to include magnesium because we started with magnesium, and it's got to include oxygen because we started with oxygen. Now, we don't call it magnesium oxygen though, okay? So when we're going to, this here is going to be a compound that is being made. We're mixing together 2 elements and we're forming a compound. When you are naming a compound, okay, Basically, we put the metal, if there is one, we put that name first, like I've done here. We've got magnesium. Okay, so this will always go first in the name. So this is magnesium. The second part of the compound will be the non-metal, which is oxygen. Oxygen is a non-metal. And if there are only two elements in the compound, like there is here, there's only two elements, magnesium and oxygen, then you drop the ending of the second element and you replace it with the word "ide," so -IDE, like this. So we're going to call this magnesium oxide. So we take the metal part, the metal element goes first in the name, then the non-metal goes second, and we take the first part of it, like the ox here, we drop the last bit and we add "ide" because there is only two elements in this compound. Okay, so magnesium oxide, this here is our product because it's produced in the reaction. This is the product. So very quickly, let's go through that again. We start with our reactants. We put them on the left-hand side. We use an arrow from left to right, this arrow here, that shows us a chemical reaction is happening. Okay, that's what that means. A reaction is happening. And then on the right-hand side of that arrow, we're going to write down the names of the products. Now we're forming a compound, so we need to know how to name it. When we're naming a compound, we put the metal first. Okay, then we put the non-metal element second. And if there's two elements, we end in -IDE. So magnesium oxide, not magnesium oxygenide or magnesium oxygen, it's magnesium oxide. Okay, so it might be a good idea at this stage if you guys pause the video and take down this box here, and that'll teach you how to name a compound. Okay, so you should only be watching if you've taken that down. Now, what we call this whole thing here, this is a list of words, basically, that explains what happens in a chemical reaction. We call this a word, because it's using words, a word equation. So this whole thing here is a word equation. Within that, you have also learned how to name a compound. Okay, so this here is how to name a compound. And this is for a compound with two elements in it, magnesium and oxygen. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to do another one now. We're going to do another example of a word equation for a different reaction. Okay, so you're going to watch me. All right, again, you should have this taken down. So if you don't, pause it and take that down. Okay, I'm going to do another example for you now. I'm going to drop a lot of the detail, a lot of that annotation I was doing with the red marker. We're just going to focus on how to write down the word equation for this next reaction. So say we took lithium, and we reacted it again with oxygen. Lithium and oxygen. They give you when they react. So we use the arrow to show they're chemically reacting. To give you, now of course above this, I would normally say, okay, well, we could write that these are the reactants, but it's not necessary. This is not part of a word equation. You don't have to have the word reactants there. That's just what I do to teach it to you. So just what's in black here is the word equation. So lithium plus oxygen to give you, okay, so what's the rules? What are we making? Well, we're making lithium, and lithium is the metal, so its name comes first. And if you're not sure about the metals, well, we did learn this very carefully. You've got to look on your periodic table, and we'll find that lithium is over on the left, so it's going to be a metal. Okay, and again, how do we name a compound? Well, then the second word is going to be the non-metal, which is oxygen, but we don't write oxygen, we don't write the full name, we just write ox, and we're going to drop the rest, and we're going to end the word in "ide" because there's two elements in this compound. Magnesium or lithium oxide. So lithium plus oxygen give you lithium oxide. Okay, so I'm going to get you guys to do one now. You do this one. So aluminium plus oxygen to give, okay, I'm going to get you to pause the video and I'm going to get you to do this one by yourselves. Now, okay, so you should only be watching if you have completed this. Okay, hopefully this is what you got. If you got this, then you're ready to go on. If you didn't, then you need to go back and watch how I did it again. Okay, so the first thing we need to look at is which one is the metal and which one is non-metal. Well, this, sorry, if you're clued in, you know, you check the periodic table, you know that this one is the metal, aluminium is a metal, and this is a non-metal. Again, you don't have to write what I'm writing here in red, I'm just explaining my thinking. So the metal name goes first, so the compound is going to be called aluminium. And the second word, again, is the second element is going to be oxygen, and we already seen, instead of writing the word oxygen, we say OX, and then we end in IDE. The good news for you guys is we're not going to do any other types of compounds on this course where you have to name them, except for compounds with two elements. So it's always going to be IDE at the end. So this here is your product, and this is the compound aluminium oxide. All right, ready to do lots more now. Again, the more practice we get, the better. All right, so I'm just going to get you to do A first of all. So pause the video and do A. Okay, so you should only be watching if you've done A. You should have got this. Sodium oxide is the name of the product. Well done if you got that. Now, I just wanted to pause it there because I want you to be careful with the next one. It's not oxygen, it's iron, and it's not oxygen this time. So just be careful. Think about, okay, well, where does it make sense to cut the name and add IDE in? Okay, so what I'm going to get you to do is just do B, see how you get on. Okay, and just do B and then play the video for the answer. Do that now. Okay, so what you should have got, hopefully, is iron is the metal, and sulfide. That's what you should have got, iron sulfide. Some people spell this without the PH, they spell it with an F, S-U-L-F-I-D-E. Technically, either one is accepted as correct nowadays, so sulfide. Well done, if you got that right. If not, you have another chance to do the next one, so pause the video and do the rest. You should be able to do the rest now, they're all the same idea, so pause the video and finish down to F, do that now. Okay, so again, you should only be watching if you've done these. If you're going to sit there and not do them, then you're really wasting your time watching the videos. You're not going to learn very much at all. If you practice doing these, you'll learn it, and I think you're going to learn how to do it, be honest, forever, because it's not that hard of a thing to do, but if you do need to get enough practice at it. Okay, so here we go. The next one should be copper is the metal, so it comes first, and it's copper, and it's going to be sulfide. Copper sulfide is the product. It's the name of the product. Well done, you got that right. Next one, calcium and chlorine. Okay, so calcium is a metal, so it comes first. Calcium. Chlorine is a non-metal, and it's a two-element compound, so it's going to be chloride. Well done. If you didn't get this one right, pause the video, and you should be able to do the next three now. If you did get that one right, then I'm guessing you got the next ones right as well. But if you didn't get this one right, pause the video and go fix E and F, because I'm guessing you probably made the same mistake in those ones. Okay, so here we go with E and F. So we've got magnesium bromide. Great job if you got that right. And lastly, we've got lithium, again, because lithium is the metal, and it's going to be fluoride. Lithium fluoride is the compound. Well done. If you've got all of them right, then this is something that you've picked up very easily, and I think you've mastered it. And you should have mastered it for life, to be honest, because it's just one of the things, if you get that right, I think it should stick with you after that. Okay, a couple more questions now. They're just a bit more spread out, as in it's not all the same kind of idea. We've got to spread them out a little bit more. So a little bit more revision type questions and stuff like that. So pause the video and have a go at these, please. All right, let's have a look. This is what you should have. You should only be watching if you've written answers to these. What is the difference between a mixture and a compound? Right, I'm not going to write the whole answer. You should have a sentence, but you should definitely have mentioned chemical bonds. Chemical bonds is key in your answer, and you should have distinguished between them that compounds have compound is a substance It's two or more substances and they've got chemical bonds between them. Mixtures is two or more substances that do not have chemical bonds between them. So that's the key thing, is chemical bonds. Compounds, the different substances have chemical bonds, and mixtures, the different substances do not have chemical bonds between them. That's the key. Okay, which side of the arrow will the products go? Well, that should be right. So again, you should have said products go on the right, but I'm only writing down what the keyword you must have. Give 3 properties of metals. Okay, I'm hoping you guys really know that strongly by now. So you could have said things like malleable. You could have said things like conductor. Lots of them are strong. Not all of them, but lots of them are strong. Most of them have high melting points and boiling points. Some of them are ductile. Some of them are hard, which means it's difficult to scratch them. Okay, so those are typical properties of metals. What is meant by boiling point? So again, 2 things here. Do we know what boiling is, and do we know what we mean by point? Okay, so the point bit means the temperature. So you definitely should have the word temperature in your answer. And what does boil mean? So boil means change from liquid to gas. So put those things together to make a sentence. Boiling point, temperature at which a substance turns from a liquid to a gas. Okay. In a reaction, copper reacts with chlorine. Okay, so we've got copper element, chlorine element. Write a word equation for this reaction. So this time you have to write it fully from scratch. So it's just one of these. Okay, it's just one of these, but you have to write the full thing out this time from scratch, not just the product. So if you weren't sure on what you were supposed to do there, pause the video and have another go at it now. Okay. All right, this is what you should have. We start on the left-hand side by writing down the elements. We've got copper plus chlorine. Great. If you got that right, then we draw the arrow to show chemical reaction. Good job. And then we're going to name the product. So this is going to be copper because it's the metal is going to come first. It's copper, and then we're going to put the non-metal name, chlor, and we're not going to go all the way to chlorine. We're going to replace ene with ide, copper chloride, because it's 2-element compound. So well done, if you got that right. Next thing, draw a picture to show the difference between a compound element and a mixture. Use different colors or patterns to help you show the different types of atoms. Okay, so we've done this quite a lot. Well, maybe you actually haven't done this yet, but you've seen me doing it a lot. So draw a picture to show the difference between a compound element or mixture. Right, so we're going to use different colors. So I'm going to use different colors here. Okay, so I'm going to use black. Here is going to show me, I'm going to put them in a container. I like to use container or boxes to show containers. I'm going to keep it a bit neater, so I'm going to keep a nice neat box. And this here is showing me this is an element. Why is it an element? Don't really like that one's a bit different from the rest. So why is this one an element? This is an element because it's only got one type of element. We'll draw a second box. Okay, so if you hadn't done the first one, okay, if you didn't have this done at all, maybe after seeing me do the first one, you could do the rest, compound and a mixture. So if you didn't begin already by doing something like this, then you can copy what I've done and finish it off for compound and mixture. Okay, so another opportunity to pause the video and finish this off. Again, you're going to learn more by doing it yourself. If you're waiting for me, then you're not going to learn as much at all. All right, let's do a compound now. So compounds are different elements chemically combined. So here are black atoms, black elements chemically combined with this red type of element. So this here is a compound, different elements chemically combined. Last of all, this box is going to contain a mixture. And we may as well just use the 2 elements that we've done already. So I'm going to draw a couple. I'm going to draw 3 of the first element, and then I'm going to draw 3 particles of the compound that I did. Okay, so obviously this here is a box that contains more than one substance. It's got these all black substances with 2 particles that are black, and then it's got some of these compound particles which are black with 2 reds. but obviously the whole box is a mixture, okay, because it's got different substances, and those different substances are not actually chemically bonded to each other. All right, that is actually it for today. Okay, so just a quick recap. What have we learned? We have learned what a word equation is. A word equation is this guy here. It's where we write, basically describe what's happened in a chemical reaction using words. So we add together reactants, the names of the reactants. We use an arrow to show a reaction is happening, and then we write the name of the product. We've learned how to name the products. We put the metal word, the name of the metal element first, then the name of the non-metal element second, and we put the ending IDE on the end. So we have learned how to do that. That's pretty much it, guys. And that's it for today's video. So if you found this easy to follow, if you found it useful, do leave a like. It helps other people to find the video. And if you've got any comments, or if you'd like me to try and tackle another topic for you, then do leave a comment down below asking for it, and I will try my best to do it for you. Okay, all right, thanks guys. We'll see you in the next video.